only for us in KwaZulu-Natal, but I think globally it's a very sad and a dull day for us. The only consolation that we have is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed him with that on a Friday, Yawmul Jummah, Laylatul Jummah, and all the virtues attached to Laylatul Jummah as well. However, those shoes are so large, I don't think there's any individual who can currently fill it. And sadly, we have been losing so many of our respected ulama, such senior scholars in the last 1 year or 1.5 years. It's something of a tremendous concern to each and every one of us. Indeed, Mufti Ibrahim Desai Sahib Rahmatullah Alayh was a institution in himself. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in that short life of his took tremendous amount of work for him. I have been very privileged personally to have been his student for 6 years consecutively, alhamdulillah, at Isabingo Beach Darul Ulum. So I've shared a very close relationship with him as a teacher, as a friend, as a mentor. And this relationship endured from the time I met Mufti Desai right till he passed away last night. If you want, I can share some of the contributions of Mufti Ibrahim Desai, Brother Inayat.
Moulana, I know we were going to be talking about Hajj and, obviously the next few days, obviously we've got Eid upon us as well in Hajj. But I think it would be relevant to obviously focus on the illustrious life of Mufti Sahib.
Jazakumullah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Mufti Ibrahim Desai was born in the KwaZulu-Natal town of Richmond in 1963. And he did not formally, complete his secular education up to matric. At a certain point, he left his secular studies and he went to become a Hafiz of the Quran at the famous Nias Farm Waterfall Islamic Institute under the very, very well-known Hafiz Abdul Rahman Mia, Rahmatullah Alayh. He completed his Hifz there. And after completion of his Hifz, Mufti Sahib and his brother Moulana Muhammad Desai, they both left for India to pursue higher Islamic education. After he completed his Islamic studies in Dabel in India, he went on to do the Mufti course under Mufti Ahmed Khanpuri, who is one of the most senior scholars of India today and globally perhaps as well. So he graduated from the Ifta or Mufti course. Thereafter, he took spiritual benefit from Mufti Mahmudul Hassan of Darul Ulum Deoband, and he was also, conferred with the mantle of Khilafat, successorship from Mufti Mahmud Rahmatullah Alayh. On his return to South Africa in the early 90s, Mufti Ibrahim Desai joined Darul Ulum Isipingo. And this institution of higher Islamic learning, he served here for a period of 12 years. 12 long years, and hundreds of students benefited from his knowledge. Thereafter, Mufti Ibrahim Desai moved on to Madrasa in Amia, which is the Darul Ulum in Camperdown, the second largest Darul Ulum in KZN. And here he taught Hadith and Tafsir and Fiqh for a period of 10 years. Thereafter, in 2011, he embarked on a new project which is a very unique project, which was a most unique project at that time and still is a very unique project, a dedicated madrasa or Darul Ifta, which has a 2-year course to train graduates of Darul Ulums to become muftis. And alhamdulillah, it's such a unique concept, and this is the only kind of institution in South Africa that students flocked to it globally. And this institution continued right up till his demise yesterday, for a period of 10 years. So all in all, Mufti Ibrahim Desai dedicated 32 years of his life teaching the knowledge of Islam and the knowledge of Deen. What's very interesting is that from inception, when he came to Darul Ulum Isipingo, he became the head mufti of the Jamiatul Ulama KZN, and he remained the head mufti of Jamiatul Ulama KZN for a period of almost 30 years, alhamdulillah, right up till his demise. Some people, as they say, they are human beings in general, they say are indispensable, but some individuals are never ever replaceable, like Mufti Ibrahim Desai Rahmatullah Alayh. And he has left a global footprint on Islamic knowledge. And I'm sure that in the next few days, we'll hear tributes pour in from throughout the world. We are feeling very, very aggrieved not only as a teacher, that he was my teacher, but he was also associated so closely with the Jamiatul Ulama KZN. The unique thing about Mufti Ibrahim Desai was that he became a friend to all his students. And he never had a top-down approach as a teacher. Perhaps it was one of the most enjoyable things to ever sit in his class. He was a unique teacher, a most dynamic teacher, that he would captivate a student while teaching because he taught with such emotion, such passion. He used to teach as a teacher. And that left such an impression in the hearts of students, a person who had such passion in the work that he does. And he became a friend to his students. So he was not only a teacher, a mentor, and senior and an elder, the mufti of our Jamiat, but he was also a close friend as well. And this has left such a deep wound in our hearts that only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can soothe that pain.
Well, certainly, Maulana. In fact, and I think my memory is obviously a lot that we've had interaction with Mufti Saab over the years in the media. And what stands out for me was the annual event that he used to host as well, the Sharia compliant Islamic event that he used to host year after year. And alhamdulillah, we had the opportunity of being in Camperdown, covering this from a media perspective, and also the interaction that we had with Mufti Saab on a number of contemporary issues and issues that impact on us as Muslims on a day-to-day basis.
Most certainly. The unique thing about him was that you could always disagree with him, and it was taken in good spirit that one had to disagree with him on, and he enjoyed that. He was a person who liked an intellectual and academic challenge to his views, and he accommodated those challenges as well. If you provided him with reasons for your differences of opinion, it was not something personal that he took. He loved, always dissecting information, and especially, as you mentioned, contemporary issues that we were facing as a society in a very fast-moving global world, as we can say.
Well, Maulana, all we can do is to make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant Mufti Saab the highest stages in Jannah, fill his qabr with noor. Obviously a huge loss, a massive loss for the Muslim Ummah at large, and particularly for people like yourself, Maulana, who have been his students, those who have been close to Mufti Saab, his family as well. And Allah grant us all sabr at a time like this, and we continue making dua. Clearly, as you mentioned, Maulana, shoes that are going to be very, very difficult to fill at this point in time. And obviously he has left a huge legacy, but at the same time he has left a huge gap that is going to be very, very difficult to fill.
Indeed. Just for the benefit of the listeners as well, Mufti Saab is survived by his wife Appa Fatima and 5 children, and 2 of his children are still fairly young as well. And it was just about 2 or 3 weeks ago that Mufti Saab lost his in-laws. Both in-laws passed away within a few days of each other. And Mufti Saab performed janazah of both his in-laws. And we never ever knew that when we met him there at the janazah, that so shortly we will be attending his janazah. And our consolation again is that he's left a legacy of knowledge will be sawab jariyah for him, and the fact that he passed away on the night of Jummah, which is the greatest consolation for us, inshallah.
Well, certainly, Maulana. And Maulana, as always, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept, Allah reward your efforts as well. And once again, Jazakallah khairan so much for coming on this morning and touching on the life and the legacy of Hazrat Mufti Ibrahim Desai rahimahullah. Allah accept, Allah reward your efforts as well. Inshallah, have yourself a wonderful Jummah and inspiring Jummah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
That was Moulana Ahmed Muhammedy focusing on the life of Mufti Ibrahim Desai. And as Maulana mentioned, there is a lot more that we will be hearing about Mufti Saab over the next few days. The time is just gone, a minute past 9 a.m. We're heading for the news at the Al-Ansar newsroom. Tabila Duma is standing by. We come back. There's a lot more to touch this morning on this day of Jummah on News and Views here on Salam Media.
Still lingers in my mind, and yeah, it's so hard. I
An informative Islamic global perspective. This is Al Ansar News.
Breaking news at Nana Business Unity South Africa has confirmed that the social partners of the National Economic Development and the Labour Council are exploring establishing a disaster relief fund to assist those affected by the anarchy. And more than 60 people have died and dozens were missing as heavy flooding in Belgium and Germany turned streams and streets into raging torrents that caused houses to collapse. Good morning, I'm Tabile Duma. Business Unity South Africa has confirmed that the social partners at the National Economic Development and Labour Council are exploring establishing a disaster relief fund to assist those affected by the anarchy. The organization yesterday said the country would have to make decisions that were not anticipated even a week ago to channel as much relief as needed. Busa said that the economic cost of the damage caused by the looting, damage to property and public disorder had been severe and that it would take business owners a long time to get back on their feet. With Busa certain that the state-owned insurer Sastria will not be able to foot the bill for all the insurance claims headed its way, the organization said it was time to look elsewhere. The network partners are also considering extending the newly reinstated temporary employer-employee scheme, which provides workers affected by the pandemic with income while they can't be at work for the period of the adjusted level 4. Following a week of unrest, the eThekwini municipality will resume services in low-risk areas from today. Bus services and taxi operators will resume operations, while water and sanitation have resumed with limited services. Parks, recreation and cemetery services will remain closed except for cremation and burial services. Meanwhile, an off-duty Metro Police officer was wounded after his car was allegedly shot multiple times at a community roadblock in Montclair in Durban on Wednesday evening. Yesterday, the head of eThekwini Metro Police Department, Steve Middleton, called on community policing forums to remove their roadblocks. In a social media post, Middleton shared a picture of the Metro Police officer and his car, which was riddled with bullets. Two Metro Police sources who spoke and confirmed that the officer was shot and wounded at a civilian roadblock in Halifax Road in Montclair on Wednesday night. It is understood that he was on his way home when he was stopped at a blockade. While some have applauded communities for trying to safeguard their properties against the looting, there have been several allegations on social media that black people were being profiled and were the only ones being stopped at these roadblocks. The violent protests and looting in South Africa have led to the closing down of COVID-19 vaccination sites in KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng. As a result, KwaZulu-Natal this week only administered a tenth of the daily doses that it did last week. Gauteng's doses have also gone down. Pharmacies, some of which were also vaccination sites, have also been looted, and Cipla, a major manufacturer and generic medicine, had its factory in Durban burnt down. Many KwaZulu-Natal patients are now without a chronic medication for conditions such as diabetes, HIV, and hypertension, which make them more likely to fall severely ill with COVID-19 and end up in a hospital. In more news, the Minister of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development, Togo Didiza, has pleaded with South Africans in provinces not affected by the unrest to avoid a panic buying, saying the country has a sufficient food supplies. This will ensure that food supply chains can continue functioning uninterrupted at an appropriate pace, she said yesterday. The minister met with stakeholders in the agriculture food sectors yesterday to discuss the impact on the food supply chain due to a spate of violent protests, looting and damage to infrastructure, mainly in KwaZulu-Natal and parts of Gauteng. The minister has set up a technical team of experts from the private and public sector to monitor urgent issues and oversee the implementation of solutions. As the unrest in KwaZulu-Natal continues to affect major roads and halt agricultural transportation networks, the KZN agricultural looming long-term food crisis, with farmers unable to continue with the day-to-day business of farming. Meanwhile, statistics are prepared by the Economic Development and Planning Cluster of the eThekwini municipality estimate that the total impact on its GDP over the last 5 days due to the unrest has been more than 20 billion rands. It estimates that there has been more than 1.5 billion rand in losses of livestock and more than 15 billion rands in damage to property and equipment. More than 50,000 informal traders and more than 40,000 formal businesses have been affected, many at risk of not being able to restart, and more than 150,000 jobs are currently at risk, it said. And finally, more than 60 people have died and dozens were missing as heavy flooding in Germany and Belgium turned streams and streets into raging torrents that swept away cars and caused houses to collapse. German authorities said late yesterday that at least 58 people had likely died, an increase on the earlier toll of 45 dead. The Interior Ministry in North Rhine-Westphalia state tallied 4 more bodies are recovered, taking the region's toll to at least 30, while neighboring Rhineland-Palatinate said 9 more deaths were likely on top of 19 already reported. Separately, Belgian media reported 8 deaths in that country. Among the worst-hit German villages was Schuld, where several homes collapsed and dozens of people remained unaccounted for. Rescue operations were hampered by blocked roads and phone and internet outages across the Eifel, a volcanic region of rolling hills and small valleys. Some villages were reduced to rubble as old brick and timber houses could not withstand the sudden rush of water, often carrying trees and other debris as it gushed through narrow streets. Dozens of people had to be rescued from the roofs of their houses with inflatable boats and helicopters. Hundreds of soldiers were deployed to assist in the rescue efforts. Taking a look at the temperatures, Durban 8 to 21, Richards Bay 9 to 21, Ulundi 4 to 21, Ladysmith -1 to 18, and Margate is at 8 to 21. Here within Pietermaritzburg is at 2 to 20, and Newcastle is at 1 to 17. For Radio Alansar News, I'm Tabile Duma.
Audio stream across the world on Radio Alansar.
Breaking stereotypes, moving boundaries, joining hands. Salam Media.
لا تقل لي وحدي أو كيف السبيل.
Humanity sets the agenda.
تصنع المستحيل. مدينة النبي.
In my dreams I make my way to Medina, the home and chosen place of our beloved prophet, where all I feel is peace and so much joy around. No better place for me. Yeah, Medina, Medina, Medina to Nabi, Medina, Medina. That's where I wanna be. Medina, Medina, Medina to Nabi, Medina, Medina. That's where I wanna be. Oh, oh, Medina, Medina. Oh, oh, Medina, Medina. I wake with the morning light in Medina. Everywhere I see blue skies, set above these mountains, bright colors fill the streets, a smile on every face, a special place for me. Yeah, Medina, Medina. Medina to Nabi, Medina, Medina. That's where I wanna be. Medina, Medina, Medina to Nabi, Medina, Medina. That's where I wanna be. Oh, oh, Medina, Medina. Oh, oh. مدينة مدينة طلع البدر علينا طلع البدر علينا مدينة مدينة طلع البدر علينا من ثنيات الوداع وجب الشكر علينا ما دعا لله داع أيها المبعوث فينا جئت بالأمر المطاع جئت شرفت المدينة مرحبا يا خير داع مدينة مدينة
The time is just gone 14 minutes past 9 a.m. as we continue with news and views this morning. If you have just tuned in, we welcome you to the show. We stay in the company of Salam Media, Al Ansar listeners, Durban, Pietermaritzburg, One Nation, 88.9 FM. We welcome you to the show this morning. Now, still to come on the show this morning is we are talking about a webinar that will be taking place, and that is courtesy of the Minara Chamber of Commerce, Amal South Africa, the Association of Muslim Accountants and Lawyers, and also Al Baraka Bank. Now, this is absolutely crucial because we are talking about insurance claims, we're talking about accounting, we're talking about tax, we're talking about theft of goods and damage to property during riots and protest looting. And there are many people that are confused as to what do they do regarding these important areas. And this is what